Harlan, Kentucky, 1977. There are places the earth tries to swallow, places so soaked in silence and shadow that even the wind forgets to pass through. Locals call it Devil's Mouth, a gaping cavern carved into the side of Black Ridge. Few talk about it, and those who do rarely look you in the eye. But in the summer of 1977, 5 friends, Noah, Travis, Claire, Jenny, and Marcus, loaded their camping gear into a beat-up van and set off for a weekend escape in the hills outside Harlan. They had heard about the cave, sure, but only in fragments. Old folks whispering things in diners, school rumors about missing hikers, nothing concrete, just the kind of ghost stories that make a trip more exciting. They weren't prepared for what they'd find. As the sun dipped behind the jagged ridge and the cave's mouth yawned open beneath the trees, the forest fell quiet. The firewood snapped too loud. The night crept too fast. And then, just after midnight, Claire said she heard a voice, deep, dry, and close. But no one was speaking. The trail that led to Devil's Mouth was barely a trail at all, just a narrow, overgrown path choked with roots and hanging branches. As the van groaned up the final stretch of gravel road, the forest seemed to close in behind it, the trees thickening like a curtain. When they finally stopped and stepped out, a strange stillness clung to the air. No birds, no wind, just the distant sound of dripping water echoing from somewhere unseen. Marcus adjusted the straps of his backpack, looking up at the ridge. "This place gives me the creeps already," he muttered. Noah smirked. "That's the idea, man. Best kind of campsite." The entrance to the cave was massive, 20 feet wide, shaped like a twisted grin, hidden behind a curtain of hanging moss and broken stone. Claire stood still as they approached, her eyes fixed on the dark. "It looks like it's waiting," she said quietly. "For what?" asked Jenny. Claire didn't answer. They set up camp 50 yards from the entrance. The fire crackled, beers were opened, stories were told, but the forest stayed unnaturally quiet. It wasn't long before the jokes ran dry and the laughter felt forced. At 11:47 p.m., Claire turned her head sharply toward the trees. "There it is again." Everyone froze. "There what is?" Travis asked. "A voice whispering something. Didn't you hear it?" No one else had. Jenny tried to brush it off, but her fingers trembled as she held her drink. "Probably the wind." "There is no wind," Claire said flatly. Minutes passed in silence. Then, crunch. A single footstep on dry leaves, just past the tree line. Noah stood quickly, grabbing the flashlight. He swept it across the woods. Nothing, but the shadows twisted strangely around the light, as if they were bending away from it. Then the flashlight flickered, and the whisper came again. Low, slow, words that didn't sound human, not just one voice, several. Claire began to tremble. "They're not in the woods," she said. Everyone turned to her. She pointed toward the cave. "They're inside." The morning brought no comfort. No birdsong greeted them. No sunlight pierced the thick canopy above. The forest looked wrong in the daylight, like it had held its breath all night and was still waiting for something. Marcus rubbed his eyes and yawned. "I barely slept," he said. "Because something kept walking around our tents," Claire whispered. They all looked at her. "I heard it too," Jenny admitted. "But I didn't want to say anything." Travis scoffed. "Probably a deer." Noah shook his head. "Then why didn't it make a sound leaving? It just stopped." They turned, almost in sync, to look at the mouth of the cave. The stone around it was dark with moisture, streaked like it had been weeping. From inside, faint echoes pulsed like distant breathing. "We said we'd check it out," Noah muttered, trying to shake off the unease. "Quick look inside, then we bounce." They geared up with flashlights and backpacks. As they crossed the threshold into Devil's Mouth, the temperature dropped instantly, 10 degrees colder than the air outside. The cave swallowed the light, each step echoing deeper than it should have. Their voices became hushed, as if the cave were listening. The walls were jagged, wet, carved with unnatural grooves. It was clear no human made this. Symbols marked the stone, circles with slashes, spirals that seemed to move if stared at too long. The deeper they went, the more the air changed, thick with decay and something older. Travis slipped slightly, his hand catching on the wall. "Ow, damn, I think something scratched me." Noah pointed his flashlight at Travis's hand. 3 thin lines, drawn with unnatural precision, bled lightly across his skin. Claire's voice cracked. "That's not from a rock." Further in, the tunnel split, one path narrow and steep, the other wide and yawning. As they hesitated, a sound rose from below. Whispers. Again. But this time, accompanied by something else. Chains dragging, feet shuffling, and the low, wet grind of stone on stone. Claire turned pale. "Guys, we're not alone down here." Suddenly, every flashlight dimmed at once, just for a second. But it was enough. In that flicker of darkness, Claire screamed, not from pain, from what she saw. At the far end of the tunnel, a figure, facing the wall, moving, digging, with hands that were little more than bone and sinew. Claire's scream echoed like a warning through the tunnels, sharp, panicked, and too real to ignore. "What did you see?" Noah grabbed her shoulders. Her lips trembled. "It was digging, with its hands, and it stopped when I screamed." They all turned. The tunnel was empty again, no figure, no sound, just the low, persistent drip of water onto stone. "We're leaving," Travis said, his voice trembling. But when they turned around, the tunnel behind them wasn't the same. "Wait, this wasn't here before," Jenny said. Where there had once been a clear path, there was now a crumbling slope, a narrow crevice stretching too deep, too wide. Like the cave itself had shifted. Noah waved his flashlight toward the rocks. "We didn't come this way. We're being turned around." Travis suddenly stepped back, gasping. His arm was bleeding again, the scratches now deeper, almost carved, symbols matching the ones on the walls. "What the hell is happening?" he cried, panic taking over. Suddenly, Claire's flashlight flared, a burst of static white light, and then it died. Every flashlight blinked, pulsing like a dying heartbeat, and the whispers came again. Clearer, closer. "Stay, dig, feed." Something moved in the darkness, fast, low, scraping the walls. Jenny spun around. "It's behind us." They ran, their breath sharp and panicked, slipping on wet stone. The tunnels twisted, narrowed, and expanded as if alive, the architecture breathing. They stumbled into a chamber, wide and echoing. In the center, a massive pit, too perfect, too round. Inside it, bones, hundreds. Skulls cracked open, ribs bent the wrong way. Some still with scraps of clothing, a rotting backpack, a name tag reading Ranger Cole, 1955. Claire backed away, shaking. "We're not the first." Jenny pointed her flashlight upward and gasped. Carved into the ceiling were hundreds of handprints, small, large, twisted, some with only 3 fingers, some clawed. Then they heard it. The sound of someone dragging something heavy, stone against stone, then metal, then chains. The figure stepped into view, not from a tunnel, from the wall. It emerged like smoke from solid rock, tall, emaciated, wearing miner's clothes from another time, soaked in filth and blood. Where its eyes should have been, hollow holes filled with ash. In one hand, a rusted pickaxe, in the other, a sack dripping. Noah whispered, "We're not in a cave anymore." Claire finished, horrified. "We're in its home." The figure didn't walk, it glided. The dragging of its sack scraped the stone floor behind it, the sound sharp and wet, like meat against granite. Jenny backed away, flashlight shaking in her hand. The beam trembled across the thing's body, its ribs visible through decaying flesh, face frozen in a grin, carved by time or madness. Its pickaxe scraped against the wall, drawing sparks that flickered like dying stars. "Don't move," Claire whispered. But the thing didn't seem to care if they ran or not. It wasn't hunting them, it was herding them. Toward the far end of the chamber, where another tunnel opened, narrow and pitch black. They had no choice. The pit behind them, the thing in front. Noah gritted his teeth and shoved forward, leading the group past it. It didn't attack, but it turned its head, slowly, and whispered, "More, to dig." They bolted into the tunnel. The darkness swallowed them whole. Inside, the air grew colder, wet. The stone beneath their feet was slick with something that didn't feel like water. The tunnel sloped downward, impossibly long. "No way this cave is natural," Travis muttered, glancing at the walls. They weren't stone anymore. They were bones, human bones, fused together. Faces frozen in expressions of fear, hands clawing upward as if trying to escape from the rock itself. Claire let out a sob. "We need to go back." But the tunnel closed behind them with a loud crack, as if sealed by something unseen. Then, a light. A faint blue glow at the end of the passage. It pulsed like a heartbeat. They approached. It wasn't a light. It was a hole in the ground. A shaft, perfectly round, descending straight into blackness, and inside it, a faint blue mist swirled like underwater smoke. On the edge of the shaft, something was carved into the stone in deep, blood-colored letters. "Devil's Mouth." Jenny turned pale. The stories. They called it that for a reason. Noah took a deep breath, then looked at the others. "We're going in." Travis stepped back. "You're insane." But the whispers were coming again. Louder. Faster. "Join the dig! Join the dig!" A hand shot out from the wall, just bones, and grabbed Travis's ankle. He screamed as it pulled him halfway into the stone. The others grabbed him, yanked, screamed. The hand snapped off with a crunch, still twitching. They didn't wait. One by one they lowered themselves into the shaft, climbing down into the mist, into the devil's mouth. Below them, the sound of pickaxes, hundreds of them, rang through the stone like a funeral bell. And something was waiting, waking. The descent was endless. The mist grew thicker the farther they climbed, clinging to their skin like cobwebs. Jenny could barely see the soles of Claire's boots above her. Below, Noah had already vanished into the blue fog. The stone shaft began to widen. Their feet touched ground, a rough, uneven floor made of compacted bones and rusted mining tools. Claire's voice broke the silence. "This place, it breathes." And it did. The walls around them expanded and contracted ever so slightly, as if the mountain was alive and they were inside its lungs. They were in a cavern now, immense. The mist danced above the ground, revealing glimpses of wooden scaffolding, old mine carts overturned and shattered, and tunnels branching off in every direction like veins. In the center of the chamber stood a massive obsidian pillar, cracked down the middle, glowing faintly from within. Chains wrapped around it, rusted but tight, and the ends were buried into the rock, as if they were holding something inside. Noah approached. "What the hell is this?" Then the whispers returned, but not from behind them, from beneath. The ground vibrated. Claire fell to her knees, clutching her ears as the whisper became a voice, booming yet sickly, layered with thousands of overlapping tones. "You brought them. More voices, more hands, more to dig." A sudden tremor knocked them all down. From the walls, more of those skeletal arms burst forth, clawing, grabbing, dragging rusted mining gear and broken helmets along with them. Travis screamed. A hand gripped his shoulder. Not skeletal, human. But its skin was ash grey, eyes pitch black. Its mouth was sewn shut with old wire. It stood beside the others, watching, unmoving. Claire stumbled backward, breath shaking. There are dozens of them. She was right. All around the chamber now stood figures, half men, half corpse, trapped between death and duty. Each one bore a miner's tag. Each one had the same hollow stare. They weren't ghosts. They were workers. Still digging, still obeying. The voice echoed once more. Every soul that enters belongs to the mouth. Suddenly the pillar cracked, splitting open with a groan, like the earth itself screaming. Inside, something massive stirred. A shape, impossibly large, coiled in chains and shadow. Only one feature could be seen clearly. A single eye, burning, watching. And it opened. The eye held them all. Not just with sight, but with force. Claire tried to move, but her muscles locked. Jenny dropped her flashlight. The bulb exploded in a shower of sparks. Noah gasped for breath, as though something invisible coiled around his throat. The burning iris at the center of the pillar pulsed, and from within the cracked obsidian came a sound like breathing, thick, wet, monstrous. Something ancient exhaled, and with it came a gust of air so cold and foul it smelled like blood and burnt earth. Travis stumbled forward, pulled by something. His boots scraped against the bone-strewn floor as he reached the base of the pillar. "Travis!" Jenny shouted, but he didn't answer. His hands rose like a puppet's. The seams of his skin split open, not with blood, with ash. He dropped to his knees. From within his mouth a whisper slithered out, not his own voice. He returns, dig with us, dig with him. Then the miners, the silent, ash-skinned husks, began to chant in unison. The cave shook as if echoing their words. Chains rattled, stones fell, the ceiling cracked. Claire pulled Jenny back. "We have to move. We have to get out now." But the tunnels had changed again. New paths had appeared. Others collapsed. The devil's mouth was shifting, trapping them deeper inside. From behind, they heard Noah scream. He'd wandered too far. When they found him, or what was left, he was hanging upside down by his ankles, wrapped in web-like chains. His face was frozen in terror, his mouth stretched far too wide, and from inside his throat, the whisper still echoed. "One becomes many, all become him." Claire turned and ran, dragging Jenny with her through one of the new tunnels. The walls bled mist. Shadows chased them, stretching into the shape of pickaxes and broken hands. Behind them, Travis rose. But it wasn't him anymore. His eyes glowed, his veins burned like lava beneath his skin, and in his hands he carried something long lost in the mine. A pickaxe. He smiled, not his smile, and whispered, "Time to dig." The air grew hotter the deeper they ran. Claire's lungs burned. Jenny tripped, her knee splitting open on jagged stone, but Claire pulled her up. Behind them, the rhythmic clang of Travis's pickaxe, striking the stone, echoed. Calm, precise, almost patient. And with each strike, the tunnel bled. Veins of glowing red pulsed through the walls, lighting the path like arteries. The cave was no longer stone. It was alive. Claire spotted a crevice, too narrow for anyone larger than a child. She pushed Jenny inside first, then squeezed through, scraping skin and losing part of her jacket. The crevice led to a chamber unlike any other. Smooth, polished walls, hundreds of skulls arranged in a spiral pattern on the floor, and in the center an altar made of spines coiled like a throne. On it sat a figure, tall, skeletal, wrapped in chains and rusted mining gear. A helmet covered its head, fused with the bone beneath. No eyes, just a blackened hole where the face should be. It raised one finger, and the chains slithered. "Welcome," it whispered in Jenny's voice. Claire froze. Jenny clutched her ears. No, no, that's not me. The figure leaned forward and its voice became Claire's. You heard the whispers too, all of you. You wanted the thrill, the legend, the story. Now, you are the story. Chains shot forward, one wrapped around Claire's ankle, burning cold. She screamed, yanking it off, and reached for Jenny. Run! No matter what happens, run! The floor shook. From the tunnel, Travis entered, or what remained of him. His body cracked as he stepped into the chamber, veins glowing white-hot, pickaxe dragging behind him. He raised it. Claire charged. She tackled him before the pickaxe could fall, both of them tumbling into the altar. The chains coiled tighter, wrapping them both. The ground splintered beneath them, opening into a black chasm. Jenny ran. She didn't look back. The last thing she heard was Claire's voice. Tell them, never come here. The tunnel collapsed behind her. 1 year later, Jenny stood at the edge of Devil's Mouth. The cave had been sealed, buried in a controlled detonation. But she knew it wasn't gone. It never would be. At night, when the wind was just right, you could still hear them. The pickaxe, the whispers. He returns. He returns.